Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakratav Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Namah Pranavarthaye Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Parachakaman anuyanti balaha
Parachakaman anuyanti balaha
te mrityoryanti vitatasya pasham
te mrityoryanti vitatasya pasham
ata dhira amritatvam viditva
ath dhira amritatvam viditva
dhruvamadhrumeshu iha na prarthayante.
dhruvamadhruvamena prarthayante.
This mantra is in two parts. The first line talks about the large majority of people, the indiscriminate ones, the ones who have not been able to think through and who go after Parachak Kaman. And what happens to them? And the second line talks about the Dhira Purusha. They don't look for any desire within samsara. That includes also other lokas. Because their clarity is there already with them, that what they want is amrtatvam icchanna. If you in fact do the anvaya for this, it will go something like this. Ye balaha parachak kaman anuyanti, those people with indiscriminate thinking, without adequate vichara, who go after all these fanciful things that we, like the child going after a balloon in preference to other and bigger things. Balaha. And the child can cry helplessly if the balloon bursts. All of us can look back on our lives and see where we have done this. Not knowing that much bigger things are available. But that point of time, that is the only focus, that balloon. I want that balloon. Right? I've given you hope. I'm waiting, all the companies are ready. You're my only son. I'm going to give you the whole lot of them. Why are you crying for a balloon? No, I want that balloon. I'll buy you another balloon. No, I want that balloon. That's how we are. I want that particular balloon. So when we go after those kind of things, what happens? Ye balaha parachak kaman anuyanti, they follow them only. Te vitatasya mrityoho pasham yanti. We've seen pasham, anything that binds. Mrityoho pasham, of the mrityu, of Lord Mrityu. they get bound to the cycle. Mrityoho pasham yanti. And then the second line says, Atha iha, here, right in this janma, right here and now, the Dhira Purusha, the ones who have discriminative thinking, who've done enough vichara, who have studied something of the Shastra, they know that Amritatvam is Dhruvam and everything else is Adhruvam. Amritatvam is Dhruvam. What I seek is Amritatvam. Amritatvam Ichchannaiva. And if that is what I'm looking for, then everything which is Adhruvam, changing, of what value is that to me? If I get something which gives me a small amount of ephemeral pleasure, I will take it. But that is not what I go after. That's the difference. The first Lord, go after those. Then what happens when they go after that, they lose sight of their real objective. You know, it is like in a company, the vision of the company, which is the long-term thinking for the company, is to be considered an ethical company, among other things. The immediate goal is for the salesman to complete his quota for the month or the quarter. So he goes chasing that. In the process, he completely loses sight of what the company really stands for. That is what is happening. The Balaha chase after these things. They forget, they don't even recognize that there is a bigger goal they have. So they keep running after this, and that running is ever running in cycles. You know, I've seen these rat cages. They put them in a circular thing, and it keeps running. There's nothing you can do, it just keeps rotating. Nothing, it just keeps running. That is what we do. Keep running, run round and round and round and round in circles. Therefore, they Mrityoho pasham yanti. On the other hand, Dhira Purushaha Dhruvam Amritatvam Dhruvam Viditva, recognizing Amritatvam as the only unchanging Vastu, which is what I'm looking for. I don't have any value for these changing things. You can also slightly change the words and interpret it slightly differently. I want Amritatvam. I know I'm going to find Amritatvam. That is my only objective, only goal. Any small goals that may be there, I'm not interested in them per se. If they come my way, fine, I'll take them. But I am not going to put my effort, energy, and everything into chasing those. Because I know in that Adhruvam, Dhruvam is not available. Amritatvam is not available. So, Amritatvam viditva adhruveshu na prarthayante. They don't chase after, they don't seek, they don't have a great desire for all Laukika Vastu, including other lokas. They don't have any interest in them. But they will live a life. See what happens when you start chasing these, it inevitably means more karma to be done. And therefore, this indiscriminate people will do karma, will wait for the karma phala because it doesn't come immediately, it comes in time. Wait for the karma phala, enjoy or suffer the karma phala, get another sharira because the karma phala has to be gone through, back again to the same cycle. They might take another janma, which is a janma in which no karma is done, like an animal janma. They might get not one, not two, not 100, but thousands of janmas before they become Manusha again. But when they become Manusha, the same cycle again goes on. As Manusha, you chase after Anitya Vastu. That Anitya Vastu chasing means karma. That karma means karma phala. That karma phala means sharira. That sharira means new birth. Dhira Purusha recognizes this and doesn't really look for these things. You know, you have seen also in the Bhagavad Gita, ye hi samparshna jata, they are also says the same thing. Ye hi samparshja ja bhogaha dukkha yone evate adhyantavanta kanteya na teshu ramate buddha. Same people, Buddha. The ones who have done ichara, who have got discrimination. What do? Yehi samparshja bhogaha. All bhoga that you gain by contact with the senses. Samparshja bhogaha. All worldly sukha. They know dukkha yone evate. They also lead to dukkha only because you know every sukha that you can gain in this jagat has a dukkha component. If life didn't have a dukkha component, we'd be in one of the other lokas. And if you're in another loka, then we never even try to gain to see what else is there. But here we have dukkha. Our yo-yo life, dukkha, 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 sukha, dukkha, 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 sukha, sukha. This is how life travels. They know adyantavanta kaunteya. Hey kaunteya, they have adi and anta. They are impermanent, ephemeral. Knowing this, knowing them to be adruvam, the dhiraha, buddha, na teshu ramate. They don't revel in those. They don't seek them for reveling in. It comes their way, they enjoy it. If it doesn't come, it doesn't bother them. Bhagavan told Arjuna this as early as the 4th chapter. No, 5th chapter, I think. 5th chapter. So, the same idea is given there also. That pratyagatma amritatvam is dhruvam. Why would anybody look for the dhruvam when I know that what I really seek is that pratyagatma amritatvam? Only those who don't understand this. Therefore, they will look for it. It is like, you know, I want to be happy. The fundamental conclusion stated or otherwise. And like the fellow who lost a small coin, went searching for it under the street light. And when somebody asked him, What are you searching for? He said, I lost my coin. You know the story, no? So they said, where did you lose it? Oh, in my tent. But why are you searching here? Because there is light here. There's no light inside the tent. Like that, we are looking for that happiness where there is no relationship at all. Murtatvam, Purushartha Dhruvam is not one of many Laukika desires. Somebody came up with a beautiful phrase. Therefore, one has to be should have an intense desire to be desireless. Intense desire to be desireless. Paradox. And somebody else argued, but Swamiji, moksha is also desire, no? Yes, moksha is also desire. But a very different kind of desire. Every desire, Laukika desire, has three components. Called Shakti, Jnana Shakti. If I know there is something like this available, because somebody else has one, I want it. If I don't know, I will never look for it. Somehow I associate an iPhone Apple 17 with my happiness. Completely illogical, but that's what I do. Because I've seen somebody else owning an iPhone 17. It has just been released, cost 2 lakhs or whatever. Therefore, I have to have the knowledge of the object. Jnana Shakti. Once I have the Jnana Shakti, my Ichha becomes there. My desire for it grows. I develop Ichha Shakti. Therefore, I want that. Whatever it is. You're a young boy, you see your friends going to the restaurant or movie with a girlfriend, you also want a girlfriend. You don't know what they're getting into. But you want it associated with what you want, which is happiness. So that Ichha Shakti develops. And with that Ichha Shakti, automatically Kriya happens. I have to do something to get it, no? Whether it is a new car or a house or a travel in first class or gaining recognition for something I do, anything. I have to have knowledge of such a thing available. I have to have an Ichha will develop as a result of that. And I have to have Kriya. These are called Shakti Traya. Jnana Shakti, Ichha Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. That Kriya Shakti eventually leads to karma, karma phala, etc. That we don't recognize. Moksha Jnanam is only Jnanam. There's nothing else. You have to do nothing. Other than bringing yourself to a class to do Shravanam, and therefore activity in terms of Mananam, etc., there's nothing you have to do. You don't have to do something and wait for a result. That Jnanam is moksha. Very different kind of desire. It doesn't go through this Shaktitraya. Therefore, in many prayers you will see Shaktitraya Atitaha. That which is not bound by these kind of Shaktis or Ichas. So the intense desire to be desireless is only to say that anything that you can get which is adruvam, You don't pine for it. You don't long for it. You recognize its impermanence and all the other doshas that go with it. Therefore, there's no longing, there's no trishna for these things. In the introduction to this, Bhagavan Shankaracharya said there are two things which prevent one from gaining this Atmajnanam. One is Ajnanam, avidya. And the other is the trishna for these kind of impermanent worldly vishaya. Sampashaja. So what one tends to do is to focus on these rather than recognize them as obstacles, as that which is preventing one from gaining that one ultimate goal. Ye bala parachak kaman anuyanti te vitatasya mrityoho pasham yanti. They enter into that state where they are stuck in a cycle. Atha, therefore, iha dhiraha dhruvam amritatvam viditva. Amritatvam dhruvam viditva adhruveshu na prarthayante. They don't seek adhruvam. I repeat, that doesn't mean that they don't enjoy an adhruvam thing that comes their way. But that is not their focus, that is not their intent, that is not their primary desire. Their only desire is for moksha jnana. Therefore, one has to examine one's own prayers to Ishvara. What do you want? Artha, kama, arthartha, jnanam. What is it that you ask Bhagavan for? And where is it going to take you? Like I said yesterday, you can ask for example, manashanti. You can ask for good health. You can ask for reasonable living, comfort. But with what intent? If that is an end in itself, then it becomes an end. There is no possibility of gaining moksha. But if they become the helpful conditions for gaining moksha jnanam, they will help you. So there's a distinction there. We will read the Bashyam. Paracha
Parasha
bahirgatan eva
Bahirgatan eva
kamyan vishayan
kaman kamyan vishayan
anugachanti
yanti anugachanti
balaha alpa prajnaha.
Bala
balaha prajnaha.
So Acharya takes one word, parachaha. Paracha means it is really kaman is the word. Parachaha is the adjective to kaman. Bahirgatan eva kaman. That desire
Ajitesh,
which is external.
Ajitesh,
Bahirgatan eva kaman. External to what? External to what I think I am. Really speaking, it also includes my body, mind, sense complex. That is also external. But I'm not able at the beginning to see this. Bahirgataneva kaman. Kaman is desires. Tritiya, Bahuvachanam. Kaman, Acharya says, Kamyan, Vishayan, objects of desire. Parachaha is the where we let our senses wander outside looking for that object or objects which is pleasing. So what's wrong with Swami? Eyes like to see which is pleasant. Ears like to listen to which is pleasant. What's wrong with that? No, there's nothing wrong. As long as you don't get stuck with that. You know, there are people who, for example, go deep into Sanskritam, Vyakaranam. Beautiful subject. It's wonderful to study Sanskrit Vyakaranam. But if we're going to get immersed in Magnaha in Sanskrit Vyakaranam, there's no space left for you to look for Moksha Jnana. You will become a great Pandita. But where is the space to look for moksha? Same thing with music. Many other things. One can become really good at music, enjoy the nuances of music, any type of music that one prefers, do a lot of analysis of music, and get so involved and immersed in music that there is no space left for moksha jnana. This is sort of warning that many times are given by gurus. Particularly if you have natural, God-given skills in certain areas, the tendency is to push it by making effort to become the top in that field, which from a Laukika point of view sounds fantastic. If we can do it without losing sight of the only objective that humankind has, moksha jnana, then very good. But what happens typically is you get involved so much in that, there is no space. You ask them, they will say, I don't have time to attend classes. Most people who get involved extensively in any area will not find the time or the space to do Shravanam and therefore Mananam. Bahirgatan eva kaman, kamyan, vishayan. These are beautiful vishayan. There's nothing wrong with the vishaya itself. Sanskrit Vyakaranam is a vishaya. Bahir vishaya, wonderful thing. Music is wonderful. But if it is going to stop you or prevent you from gaining moksha jnanam, it is a distraction. The least that will happen is it will get postponed, maybe to another janma. You know, people who, for example, if you take Carnatic music is only about bhakti, God, Ishvara. Nothing else. Therefore, that will eventually take them there, but not in this janma. You will get it postponed. Again, there is nothing wrong with that. But one has to recognize what is happening. Kamyan Vishayan Anuyanti. They really chase after, run after. That's what I said. If suppose Vyakarana becomes the driving force, there's no time, no space for anything else. Anugachanti, into that Vishaya. Science, mathematics, music, you name anything. Sports, anything. Who anugachanti? Balaha anugachanti. Balaha anugachanti. We've seen what balaha is. The ones who choose ice cream in preference to a fully loaded credit card is called a balaha. You offer a child a plate of ice cream on one hand and a credit card fully loaded in the other hand, child will take that. We do the same thing. Because we don't know any better. Balaha. Acharya called the alpa prajnaha, of limited knowledge. Because their knowledge of Atmajnanam and the primacy of Atmajnanam over everything else is limited. They are not able to get rid of the Ajnanam. They are not able to get rid of the Trishna. The two main obstacles that Acharya talked about earlier. The avidya and the trishna for external objects is so overpowering that they have no time, space, or mind share for Atmajnanam. Can you put it back on, please? Te tena karanena
Tena
karanena
mrityoho
mrityoho
avidya kama karma samudayasya
avidya kama karma samudayasya
yanti gachanti
yanti gachanti
vitatasya. What do we stop here?
vitatasya
We'll stop here. We'll continue. See how what they tena karanena, because they are so engrossed, so immersed in this bahirvishya, sparshaja. Then what happens? The tena karanena avid mrityoho, of mrityu, avidya kama karma samudayasya. Avidya is ruling them. Avidya leads to kama. Kama leads to karma. Avidya is not knowing that there is Atma Jnanam available to me. I have a Mula Avidya that I'm a Karta. And I have seen something which I like. My Jnana Shakti tells me that there is something I can get. It looks like that will give me my want, which is to be happy. Therefore, I develop Ichha Shakti for that Vishaya. And that leads to, that Kama leads to Karma. This whole grouping, Avidya, Kama, Karma, Samudaya, they go into that. Yanti, Gachanti. So the cycle of Avidya, Kama, Karma, Karma Phala, that whole cycle repeats itself over and over and over again. They remain in that cycle. Then what happened? Vitatasya.
vitatasya
Can you put it back on? Yeah. Vitatasya, Vistirnasya,
vitasya vistirnasya
Sarvataha Vyaptasya,
sarvataha vyaptasya
Pasham,
pasham
Pashyate, Badhyate Yena,
pashyate badhyate yena
Tam Pasham,
tam pasham
Dehendriyadi Sanyoga Viyoga Lakshanam,
Deindradi Yoga Lakshanam.
So by going into this Vishaya, Laukika Vishaya, by going into this Vishaya, full steam ahead, what happens? They get caught in the Bashyam. So what is this Bashyam? Mrityor Bashyam. Lord Mrityu's lasso, rope. That Mrityu Bashyam is Vitatasya, which Acharya explains as Vistirnasya. That which is all pervading. Sarvato Vyaptasya. You get stuck because this is everywhere. Up, down, side, front. This is everywhere. You can't escape it. You know, there are stories where Kamsa is one of them that comes to mind immediately. Kamsa had been told by Asharira, by an Akashvani, that his 8th son of his sister will be his death. This he knew. So he tried, he wanted to kill his sister because he knew that I will escape death if I kill my sister, she'll have no children. But he was persuaded not to kill her by saying every child as is born will be offered to you. You all know the story. So each child as it was born, he picked up and killed. 7 children he killed. But you know what happened to the 8th child? Escaped and was the cause of his death. Right? You can't escape death. You can't go and hide somewhere. There's another Purana, another interesting story. One form of Garuda was foretold his death. And Shani Bhagavan tried to save him and took him deep into Patala Loka in isolation where there's nobody else. How will he die? But there also he died. Yamadharma Raja is Vistirana. You can't escape. So Shani Maharaj asked Yamadharma Raja, how did you find him? I had hidden him so deep in these Patala Loka. There was nobody else, no spies, no nobody. How did you know? So Yamadharma Raja said, in fact, you only know half the story. His death was known. But what he didn't know was his death was supposed to be deep in the Patala Loka. And I was wondering how am I going to get him there? So he brought him to that Patala Loka. He died. You cannot escape death. It is all pervading. Nobody can hide from death. In Greek tragedy, have you heard of Oedipus? There's a character called Oedipus. In fact, there is a phrase in psychology called Oedipus complex. Oedipus complex is when somebody has a desire to be with his mother. Oedipus, when he was born, it was predicted that he will kill his father and marry his mother. So they abandoned the child. But as it happened, the child got saved, grew up, and eventually did come and kill the father. You cannot hide from Mrityu Pasha. Therefore, Acharya says, Vistirnasya sarvato vyaptasya, everywhere. It's not limited by any space. You can't hide anywhere to escape this pasha. So, vyaptasya pasham. What is pasha? Again, Acharya takes that word, pasham, from the Mula Mantra and says, pashyate iti pasham. Pashyate means what? Badhyate ena. By which something is bound. Our immediate imagery you get is rope or chain or something. But pasham is anything that binds you. A desire binds you. Ragadvesha binds you. So, badhyate yena tam pasham. So, I must have this. Is a desire. I told you. You have Jnana Shakti and Ichha Shakti. I must have this. That is binding. That is pasham. And that keeps you in the cycle. Prevents you from getting moksha jnana. Tam pasham, what does it do? Dehendriyadi sanyoga viyoga lakshanam. Deha indriya adi sanyoga viyoga lakshanam. You get a sharira with all these things, the jiva is there, then there's separation. Then there's again this thing. That is what? Death and rebirth, death and rebirth, death and rebirth. Over and over and over again. So, Dehendriyadi sanyoga viyoga lakshanam. It is what gives you this birth and rebirth and rebirth. And this is not one time. It's happening constantly. Anavaratam. Let's read that again. Next sentence. Anavaratam.
Anavaratam.
Janma marana jara rogadi anekartha vratam.
Janma Marana Jara Roga
Rogadi
Nekartha Vratam
Pratipadyate ityarthaha.
Pratipadyate
Pratipadyate
Ityarthaha.
Anavaratam means incessant, without stoppage, without gaps. It just keeps happening over and over again. Birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. With all that happens in between. When there is Janma, Acharya says, Janma Marana, Jara, Rogadi, Aneka Anartha, Aneka Anartha. All that is undesirable between Janma and Mrityu. What is undesirable? You don't want the Sharira to grow old. Forever, alchemists have been trying to find out an elixir which will prevent the body from going old. Every time somebody looks in the mirror and sees a gray hair or a wrinkle, they desperately go looking for an anti-wrinkle cream. None of it works, but they're desperate. That is the human nature. We don't want roga, disease. We are enormous amount of money, time, and energy is being spent on trying to find out what kind of rogas begin and try to prevent it or treat it if it occurs. Somebody came up with a theory, very interesting theory, that many, many years ago, we had only simple diseases. Some headache, some body ache, some minor cold. And as we found cures for all of them, bigger diseases came. Today you have, I went to the hospital the other day to see somebody in the cancer ward. I couldn't believe the number of small children with cancer. Obesity, cancer, my God. Small children. We don't want roga. Aneka anartha bratam. The samuha of all of these things we don't want. But incessantly we get this. Janma, marana, jara, old age. You don't want any sign of old age. One needs to grow old gracefully. No, but I will dye my hair. I will look 5 years younger. Why? You are 60 years old, you're 60 years old. Rogadi anekanartha vratam pratipadhyate. They get into all human beings are into that. How can you get out of this? So Amit, it's very simple. You sit there and tell me I'm going to get into this because I'm like every other human being. I'm also subject to janma, maranam, jara, roga, adi. But I don't want it. How do I get rid of it? Is there a way to get rid of it? People have been working for years and years and years trying to find solutions to these things, to aging. Nobody has found a solution. There is no solution in this jagat. Then you mean I'm stuck with it? I don't have a choice? Oh, you do have a choice. Change your perspective. Understand what you really want. And what is it that one has to do to get that? If we have Shraddha in the Shastra, it very clearly says there's only one way. Understand the truth of everything. The truth is you're never born. Truth is you never die. But that doesn't look like it is the way we see it here in the Jagat now. How can you say truth is I'm not born? I am here. I have a date. I have a birth certificate, which says I was born so-and-so year, so-and-so place. I also have my horoscope cast for that date. No, you were never born. Swamiji, it would be wonderful. That means I'll never die. No, you'll never die because you're never born. How are you going to die? Won't it be wonderful if I never died? Yes. You never die. That discriminative thinking, deep vichara, and complete shraddha in Shastra, which lead to Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, is the only possible way. Nanya Pantha Ayanaya Vidyate. No other way. All details are available how to do it. Don't let this beautiful word here, kamyan, vishayan, affect you. If it comes, it comes. No, it doesn't come, doesn't come. Let it go. Try and understand the truth of what is happening. How do I do that? The second line of the mantra, which Acharya talks about in the next sentence, Yata evam
Yat evam
atha
atha
tasmad dhiraha
tasmad dhiraha
vivekinaha
vivekinaha
pratyagatma swarupavasthana lakshanam
pratyagaatma swarupa
Lakshanam
lakshanam
amrtatvam
amritatvam
dhruvam viditva.
Dhruvam
dhruvam viditva.
The key word is viditva. Having known, having understood. Understood what? What is amritatvam? Pratyagatma. I, the Pratyagatma, being what I am, I is. Swarupa avasthana lakshanam. Avasthana means staying in one's own swarupa, but really not staying in one's swarupa, recognizing one's swarupa. Avasthana comes from sthadhatu. Like many other words that come from the nishtha. Pratyagatma swarupa avasthana lakshanam. That is amritatvam. Everything else comes and goes. This is dhruvam. That viditva, you're freed of all this. No janma, no marana, no jara, no vyadi, no nothing. Yata, evam, thus in this manner, atha, therefore, tasmat, atha here, Acharya says tasmat, therefore, dhiraha, vivekinaha, the ones who have a discriminative thinking, atma, anatma, viveka is clear to them. Pratyagatma swarupas avasthana lakshanam. Abiding in the recognition of Pratyagatma, which is amritatvam, dhruvam. That is all. So it's only jnanam, recognizing the real nature of the self, removing of avidya. Automatically your trishna goes. Trishna for all kinds of vishaya, laukika vishaya goes. Vivekinaha, dhiraha. Once you have viveka, what kind of viveka? Atma and atma viveka. Yata evam atha tasman dhiraha vivekinaha pratyagatma swarupa avasthana rakshanam amritatvam dhruvam viditva. By gaining this, by knowing this. What kind of dhruvam? Acharya takes it one step further beautifully. Devadi amritatvam.
Devadamritatvam
He adhruvam. Adhruvam.
Adhruvam.
He devas are also in some form exalted beings. Okay. That is also adhruvam. One goes to a devaloka and stays in the devaloka for a while, enjoying all that the devaloka has to offer. But that is not that amritatvam we are talking about. That is still adhruvam. It may therefore be there for a very long time, but it is still adhruvam. Devadyamritatvam hyadruvam. That is also adruvam. Going to another loka is adruvam. You know, the in Taittiriya Upanishad, there is an Anandavalli. It talks about several levels of Ananda at different lokas. Some 9 or 10 different levels it talks about. Manishya Loka we know. Better than Manishya Loka is Manishya Gandharva Loka. Better than Manishya Gandharva Loka is Deva Gandharva Loka. Better in what sense? In Anandavalli it talks about the kind of Ananda, relative Ananda you can get in those places. Pitranam Charuloka Loka, another level. Ajanjanam Devaloka. Then Karma Devaloka. Then Devaloka, Indraloka, Brahaspati Loka, Prajapati Loka, and Brahmaloka. There it talks about the levels of Ananda. It's all relative. But it ends up by saying this is all only still relative. All the way it is only still relative. Adruvam. For any deva it doesn't matter. It's Adruvam. Deva, Devadi Amritatvam, he Adruvam also is Adruvam. That kind of dhruvam we are talking about. In fact, we're quoting from Kathopanishad. There's a big argument, big debate in Kathopanishad about whether devas will gain moksha jnanam. And one of the arguments why they cannot get moksha jnanam, because for moksha jnanam, you need to start thinking. Is this the end? Is there something more? Is there something which I am missing? Because today I am in Martya Loka, Prithvi Loka, and I am subject to a lot of dukkha, shoka. Why am I getting this? Why is it that I am getting this, he is not getting, he is getting even more than I am getting? My share of dukkha. This is the kind of thing that leads one to question it. Is there a state where you will have no dukkha? Now, if you look at the Devalokas, all these lokas that I mentioned, increasingly there is Ananda. And because there is more Ananda and hardly any dukkha, that question does not occur, is one of the arguments. Therefore, they will not look for it. How will you look for it unless the question arises in your mind? Even in the Martyaloka, in the Prithvi, most human beings do not question this. Or if they do question, they'll come up with some very incomplete or insignificant answer. Most religions will tell you, you do what I tell you to do, you will go to another loka. Sometimes call it heaven, some call it Jannat or whatever else. And you will be very happy. But to get there, you have to do a lot of things here. What do you have to do? You have to follow whatever I tell you to do. I go and tell you to go and kill so-and-so person, you should go and kill person. I would tell you to go and convert 100 people, you should convert 100 people to my way of thinking. You have to do all what I tell you, then you will go to so-and-so place. Think about it, it's not logical at all. There is no tarka which is correct. But if you look at what actually can happen, is if we can recognize that Trishna is what is holding you back from removing the avidya. And what can I do to not let the Trishna and my ragadvesha drive me away from this knowledge? Then the whole thing falls into place. Therefore, even the Deva, that Amritattvam they enjoy, is also Adhruvam. But that is not what I am talking about. I am talking about Amritattvam, which is Dhruvam, Kutastham. Knowing that Amritattvam, Viditva, one can gain this Swarupa, Ananda Swarupa. We quote Brihadaranyaka. What kind of Dhruvam? Kutastham, Achalam Dhruvam, Nirvikaram Dhruvam, Akarta Dhruvam, unchanging Dhruvam, partless Dhruvam. Dhruvam which is unaffected by anything. That kind of Dhruvam, that is what I have to recognize. That Dhruvam Viditva, I get rid of all of these problems. So Acharya continues in the same vein in the next two lines, which we will take up in the next session. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om